There is a version of the blue jay in your yard that you have never seen. You have seen the version that arrives at the feeder like she owns it, scattering the smaller birds before she has even landed. You have seen the version that screams from the oak tree when the neighbor's cat crosses the lawn, the one that mobs the hawk, the one that announces herself to the entire yard every single morning without apology. But there is another version, a quieter one. One that only exists in the minutes when the windows are closed and the yard has gone silent enough that she believes, completely, that no one is there. When she thinks she is alone, the blue jay becomes someone else. She plays. She rests in ways she never shows you. She goes so quiet that the yard around her seems to hold its breath. And the moment you step onto the porch, that version of her disappears, and the loud, electric bird you think you know takes her place. Tonight we walk through what your blue jay does when she thinks no one is watching. Science has documented pieces of this hidden life. The quiet songs, the mimicry, the caching, the pair bonds, the way intelligent birds change their behavior depending on who is watching. When you put those pieces together, a different blue jay begins to appear. I'll call this bird She tonight, not because we can know that from the window, but because every story needs a subject. Welcome back to Backyard Wildlife Mind, the channel where we sit with the small wild lives that share our yards and try to understand what they understand about us. Pour yourself something warm, settle into your chair, and let us begin. Stay with me from beginning to end because behavior number 5 is something that stopped researchers cold when they first documented it in corvids. And the final behavior number 8 is the one I think will change how you feel every morning when you hear her out there before you've opened the door. 1. She plays. The blue jay you know is all purpose and performance. Every movement she makes in your presence seems to carry intention. The deliberate flight to the feeder, the precise crack of a seed against the branch, the sharp territorial call delivered from the highest visible perch. She looks in front of you, like a bird who does not waste a single second. When she thinks she is alone, that changes. Blue jays belong to the corvid family, the same family as crows, ravens, and jays worldwide, and corvids are among the small number of bird groups where play behavior has been seriously and repeatedly documented by researchers. Object play, locomotor play, the seemingly purposeless running and tumbling and manipulating of things that serves no immediate survival function. In corvids generally, this behavior has been observed in adults, not just juveniles, and it tends to diminish or disappear when the animals become aware they are being watched. For blue jays specifically, the evidence is less direct, but the family resemblance is hard to ignore. Researchers who study avian cognition place blue jays among the more intellectually complex North American birds, and complexity of mind and capacity for play tend to travel together in the animal world. What we can say with confidence is this: the bird who looks all efficiency when you're watching her belongs to a family that plays when no one is looking. And if you have ever caught a glimpse of your blue jay doing something that seemed to have no point, something that looked almost like fun, you were probably not imagining it. You were catching the edge of something real. 2. She rests in ways she would never show you. In front of a human, even a familiar one, a blue jay holds herself in a posture of readiness. Her body is compact. Her crest, that extraordinary blue crest that makes her unmistakable, stays raised or at half-mast, ready to signal alarm or aggression at a moment's notice. She does not, in your presence, look like a bird who is ever truly at rest. The crest is one of the most honest readouts of a blue jay's internal state. Cornell's research notes that blue jays raise their crests when agitated or aggressive and lower them when feeding peacefully among family members or tending young. The fully flattened crest, the position it almost never reaches in front of strangers or in uncertain situations, appears in the moments of greatest calm. When she is convinced she is unobserved, that crest comes down. The feathers loosen slightly. The body settles lower on the branch, weight dropping, feet gripping more loosely. The scanning that never quite stops in your presence slows. She is not asleep. Blue jays sleep at night in dense cover. This is daytime rest, the kind that only happens when every piece of sensory information has been checked and cleared, and the body has been given permission to soften. If you have ever seen her on a branch in a position that looked almost uncomfortably open, crest flat, feathers slightly puffed, eyes going quiet, you were probably looking at her in the middle of something private. She was doing the rarest thing a wild bird can do in a populated yard. She was letting her guard down entirely, and she would not have done it if she had known you were there. 3. She talks to herself. Blue jays are among the most vocally complex birds in North America. Most people know 2 or 3 of their calls. The sharp alarm, the liquid rolling call that carries across the yard on a still morning, the nearly perfect imitation of a red-tailed hawk that sends every small bird in the yard diving for cover. Cornell documents blue jays as capable mimics, able to reproduce hawk calls with enough accuracy to clear a feeder, And researchers studying blue jay vocalizations in the field have cataloged dozens of distinct call types across extended observation periods. But there is a call most people never hear. Cornell describes what it calls the blue jay's whisper song, a soft, continuous, almost private stream of sounds that includes clicks, whirs, liquid notes, and fragments of other calls woven together at a volume so reduced it would be inaudible from more than a few feet away. It carries none of the projection of the calls she makes when she knows she has an audience. We do not know exactly what this quiet song is for. That would require more certainty than the science currently offers. But we do know that blue jays have a vocal world far beyond what we usually hear, and that the quieter end of that world emerges in moments of low social pressure and low threat. If you have ever stood very still by a cracked window on a quiet morning and heard something from the oak tree that did not sound quite like any blue jay call, you recognize something softer, something almost tentative. You were probably eavesdropping on this. The private voice of a bird who is usually only loud on purpose. She did not know you were there. And what you heard was one of the rarest things a backyard listener ever gets to hear. 4. She investigates the human evidence. In the public version of her behavior, she keeps a calibrated distance from the specific spots where humans have been. She will use the feeder on her own terms, but she does not linger near the chair you were sitting in or examine the corner of the porch where you stood this morning. In front of you, she maintains the careful distance of a wild animal who has decided how close is close enough. When she is alone, her curiosity takes over. Corvids are among the most object-curious birds ever studied. Their interest in novel objects, in items left behind in their environment, in things that are out of place or recently changed, has been documented extensively across crow, raven, and jay research. Blue jays share this trait. They inspect, they pick things up, they turn them over in their bills. They carry some things off and leave others exactly where they found them. When you step away from the yard, she may well come to where you were, not to find food, though she will take something edible if she finds it, but to look at what you left behind, the small things you did not notice you had left, the traces of the person whose yard she shares. This is not the behavior of an indifferent animal. It is the behavior of a curious one, an intelligent one who is paying more attention to the details of your presence than you have probably given her credit for. She is building a picture of you from the evidence you leave when you are not performing anything. And what a creature leaves when it is not watching itself is often the most honest information available. 5. She responds to absence, or something like it. This is the one that stopped researchers cold. Stay with me here, because the science is careful and the conclusion it points toward is not small. Blue jays form long-term pair bonds. Animal Diversity Web documents this clearly. Blue jays establish monogamous bonds that typically persist until one partner dies. These are not casual associations. A mated blue jay pair forages together, roosts near each other, defends a shared territory, and maintains their bond across multiple breeding seasons. They know each other in the specific, accumulated way that animals who have shared a life come to know each other. Research on western scrub jays, close corvid relatives, documented something striking. When these birds encountered a dead member of their species, they responded with alarm calls, aggregation, and a temporary cessation of foraging in the area. Researchers interpreted this not as grief in the human emotional sense, but as information gathering about potential danger. The absence of a known individual registered as significant. For blue jays, the direct research is thinner, but field observers working with marked, known individuals have noted that birds who lose long-term partners show behavioral changes in the territory they shared. They return to places the pair used together. They sit in spots that have no current foraging value. The sitting is quiet and prolonged. No one is prepared to call this grief. The word carries too much, and the science cannot follow the feeling that far. But no one who has watched it is prepared to call it nothing, either. Something in the bird registers the absence of the other bird, and that registration happens in the quiet of the unobserved yard, in the empty spot on the fence where two birds used to sit. If you have ever seen your blue jay sitting motionless somewhere she does not usually sit, not alarming, not foraging, just sitting with a stillness that did not look like rest, you may have been watching something close to this, something private, something that had nothing to do with the performance she puts on for the world. Before we go to number 6, if you want to go deeper into the inner life of the birds sharing your yard, the link in the description will take you somewhere that can help with that. Now, number 6. She rehearses. Blue jays are extraordinary vocal mimics. Cornell documents their ability to reproduce the calls of red-shouldered and red-tailed hawks with convincing accuracy. A researcher studying free-ranging blue jays in Kentucky recorded over 7,000 calls across hundreds of vocal sessions and identified 40 distinct call types, with evidence suggesting that at least some of these calls are learned rather than purely innate. Learned calls have to be learned somewhere, and learning in vocal birds involves repetition. What this points toward, carefully, is the possibility that some of what blue jays do in private is practice, not in the consciously intentional way a human musician practices, but in the functional sense that a complex call produced thousands of times becomes more precise than one produced hundreds of times. The mimicry gets sharper, the hawk imitation becomes more convincing. The full repertoire of 40 call types does not arrive fully formed. Field observers watching blue jays in low social situations have noted individuals producing call fragments, partial sequences, incomplete versions of calls that appear finished in social contexts. Whether this is rehearsal in any meaningful sense is a question the science has not yet answered cleanly. But the possibility is there, and it fits with what we know about vocal learning in birds more broadly. She may be, in the quiet minutes of the unobserved yard, working on something, getting better at something in private that she will deploy in public, failing at the hawk call where no one can hear the failure, running it again, getting it closer. The yard in those minutes becomes something like a practice room, and she is the only one in it. 7. She has a private relationship with silence. The blue jay's reputation is built entirely on noise. She is the bird people mention when they want a peaceful morning at the feeder and cannot have one. She is the alarm system nobody asked for, going off at hawks and cats and low-flying planes, and occasionally, it seems, at nothing at all. The word loud comes up before any other word when people describe blue jays. It defines her. It is the first thing she is, and then you learn about the whisper song, and you start to watch what she does when she thinks no one is there. She goes quiet in a way that is startling once you know to look for it. Not the frozen alert quiet of a bird who has heard a predator. A chosen, settled, ambient quiet that she moves into deliberately. She lands in the yard. She forages. She caches a seed beneath the leaf litter. She does all of it without making a sound. No contact calls, no alarm notes, no commentary. Just the soft sounds of her feet on the bark and her bill working against the seed and the wind, moving through the feathers of her crest. Cornell notes that blue jays are generally detected by their calls, which means the bird moving silently through your yard is doing something researchers rarely record, because the research typically starts with sound. The silent blue jay is, in some sense, invisible to the standard methods. She moves through the unobserved yard without leaving an acoustic trace. The noisiest bird in your yard has a private self that is almost entirely quiet. And that private self, the one that moves through the morning without announcing herself, is the one she is when she has no reason to be anything else. She is not loud because she cannot help it. She is loud because the world she lives in asks it of her. In the minutes when it does not, she sets the instrument down. And the silence she rests in is as much a part of who she is as every call she has ever made. 8. She keeps coming back. This is the one that comes last, and the one that matters most. We have talked about science tonight, about corvid play and crest behavior and whisper song and pair bonds and vocal learning and the way an intelligent bird moves differently through the world when she believes no one is watching. All of that is real. All of it is documented or carefully inferred from what is documented, and all of it is happening in your yard, in the minutes before you open the back door. But the thing that holds all of it together is something simpler than any of the science. She keeps coming back. Blue jays are among the most site-faithful birds in North America. Research on blue jay territory use has documented individual birds returning to the same home range year after year, sometimes across 5, 6, 7 consecutive years. They are not wanderers. They are not generalists who will settle anywhere food is available. When a blue jay decides a territory is hers, she organizes her entire life around it. The yard is not a convenience. It is a home in the specific and committed sense that a wild bird can have a home. Your yard, with its particular oak tree and its specific feeder, and the way the morning light falls across the left side of the fence, is the yard she assessed and stayed in. She weighed what was here against what was elsewhere in her range. The food sources, the nest sites, the escape routes, the quality of the cover, and she decided, through the accumulated evidence of days and seasons, that this was the place worth staying. That means that everything we talked about tonight, the play and the rest and the whisper song and the vocal rehearsal and the response to absence and the private silence, all of it is happening here in this yard because she decided this yard was worth her life. Many of you watching this have had a blue jay for years without fully knowing it. You have heard her every morning. You have watched her chase the smaller birds and scold the cat and announce the hawk. You have thought of her as the loud one, the difficult one, the one you tolerate because she comes with the territory. She came with the territory because she decided it was hers. And in the private minutes before you open the back door, she is out there living the quiet version of her life in the yard she chose, playing in the way corvids play when no one is watching, resting with her crest flat and her feathers loose, talking to herself in sounds too soft to carry to the window, practicing the hawk call in fragments, sitting sometimes in the empty places, moving through the silence she never lets you hear. You're a part of what she assessed when she decided to stay. The human at the window, the one who fills the feeder, the one whose schedule she has learned across seasons. You are one of the features of the yard she decided was worth organizing her life around. She did not choose you the way a person chooses a person. She stayed the way a wild animal stays, through repeated evidence, across accumulated seasons, because the place kept being worth staying in. And every morning she comes back. She is doing the only thing a wild bird can do to say that the place still holds. She is there. She is staying. She has been staying for longer than you knew. Go look for her tomorrow. She will be in the yard before you are. She always is. If this sat with you the way it sat with me while I was putting it together, take a second to leave a comment below about your blue jay. What does she look like? When did you first notice her? Has she ever done something that stopped you in your tracks? Tell me about it. The stories this community shares are some of the most extraordinary I read, and I read every one. If anything in this video changed the way you will hear her tomorrow morning, share it with someone who has a yard and a bird they have not yet learned to look at. Hit subscribe so the next quiet story finds you. And if you have not yet, take a walk over to Backyard Wildlife Mind, where we sit with all the small lives that share our yards the same way we sat with the blue jay tonight. Take care of yourself this week. Go look out the window tomorrow morning. She will already be there. She has been waiting.